Perfect Square, written and illustrated by Michael Hall, read with permission from HarperCollins. It was a perfect square. It had 4 matching corners and 4 equal sides. And it was perfectly happy. But on Monday, the square was cut into pieces and poked full of holes. It wasn't perfectly square anymore. So it made itself into a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped. On Tuesday, the square was torn into scraps. So it made itself into a garden. On Wednesday, the square was shredded in strips. So it made itself into a park. On Thursday, the square was shattered. So it made itself into a bridge. On Friday, the square was snipped into ribbons. So it made itself into a river. On Saturday, the square was crumpled and ripped and wrinkled. So it made itself into a mountain. On Sunday, the square waited to see what was next. It waited and waited. Nothing happened. Its 4 equal sides were confining. Its 4 matching corners were rigid and cramped. So it made itself into a window that looked out on a mountain that gave birth to a river that was crossed by a bridge that led to a park that was home to a garden, and at its center, a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped.
When you learn how to read, the first thing you do is you learn what the letters are and what the sounds make. And then you put those sounds together to create new words. Then you put the words together to create a sentence. When artists are learning how to do art, they often learn something called the elements of art. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The elements of art are line, shape and form, color, texture, space, and value. You can choose several of these elements and put them together to create a piece of art, and artists often do that. If you've been following our videos, you've already learned about line, you've learned about color, and today we're going to add shape and form. You know the shapes, circle, triangle, squares, and rectangles. And you also know about ovals and rhombus, heart shapes, 2- and 3-dimensional shapes like pyramids and cubes. Some shapes are hollow, like this cylinder or a bowl is hollow. There's also a freeform shape that has no corners and no sharp edges, no straight edges. So today we're going to take some of those shapes, add some color to them, and we're going to create a piece of art. Many famous artists love to bend the rules and play with shape and color. This is one artist, Henry Matisse, who when he was older, he got sick and he couldn't stand up and paint anymore. And so he decided that he would cut out shapes and glue them down. Let's get started. You will need a white piece of paper and a black piece of paper or something dark. You could use a paper bag for a background if you want to. You'll need scissors and crayons and a glue stick. To get started with this project, choose a dark colored crayon. I'm going to use black. I like to start with black. And you need your white piece of paper. And we're going to fill this piece of paper with shapes. So let's start by thinking about the shapes that we saw on our Elements of Art poster. Shapes like circles, triangles, squares, and rectangles. Find the ones that have corners and sharp edges, and we're going to start with those. So I want you to draw 3 shapes that have sharp edges and straight edges as well. So there's my first one. Triangle has sharp points. We call those angles. And let's see, I think I'll just make a regular square. And you'll notice I'm making these pretty large. Right. Good. So I have 3 shapes that have sharp edges and points. All right. Now I want you to draw a shape that has no points, no angles, and no straight sides or edges. So that might be a circle, a kind of circle, or it might be an oval. Maybe it's a sideways oval. And then there's that free form, or what we call an organic shape. Those are really fun. And that's just any sort of line that you want, but it has to connect in order to be a shape. All right, there we go. So I have 1, 2, 3 shapes with points and straight edges. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 shapes that have no edges and no sharp points. If you have space on your paper and you'd like to add another shape to fill in the space, go ahead and do that. Okay, your white piece of paper should be full of shapes. And now I want you to choose your favorite color out of your marker box or your crayon box. And that's going to be your outline color for one of the shapes. So I'm going to choose red as well. I'm going to choose red just because I feel red today. And I'm going to go just along the edge of this oval all the way around this edge. Okay. And then I'm going to choose another color to go around another shape. And when you're finished, you'll have an outline of a different color around all your shapes, hopefully. If you have to repeat a color, that's just fine. So just around the outside. Don't worry about running into another one. If you want to, you can do the inside of the shape, but I just find it's easier to just go around the edge here. Okay, I have now outlined all of my shapes. And here comes the fun part. You're going to take the next door color to each shape and fill it in. So the outline for this square is orange, and I'm going to fill this green rectangle in with orange. So I'm going to use the side of my crayon to fill it in quickly. And then when I'm done with this, I'll move to the next shape. Now, if you have to go around in a circle to get the next door color, that's fine. All right, that one's done. So now I'm gonna move over here, and the next door color is this beautiful, brilliant blue. I love teaching these art lessons, but I have to tell you, I love teaching art lessons in a classroom or in person, face-to-face with kids, because I think it's so much fun to create together. And I can see what you're doing and how different each person's art becomes, because we all have different ideas of what we like. All right, I will continue. Now I'm gonna go over to this shape, and I see that it's brown, and I'm going to fill this one in with brown. So I have filled in all of my shapes with the color next door. And I was just thinking about how much fun this might be to do with a Sharpie as your outline shape, and then with watercolors to fill them in. That would be really fun. I might try that. So the next step for this project is you can cut these out. You're going to cut these out. And you're gonna cut each one just around the second color outline. So it's a little bit like a bubble cut. And when you're finished, you'll need to find your dark background, and I'll show you the next step. I meant to tell you that when you are coloring these in, it's okay if you go out of the lines, of course, because you're gonna cut these shapes out. I like cutting. I did a lot of cutting when I was young. I have found that it's fun to turn the paper around the object as you're cutting it. Makes it a little bit easier. All right, I have cut all my shapes out, and I've got them laying out in front of me. And I'm going to take my black background, and I'm going to just lay those on top of my black background. Now it is your job now to move your shapes around, just like Matisse did when you made that beautiful painting by cutting out shapes to create something that you like. Will it be a design? What can you make with your shapes that you have created and colored in with color? So move your shapes around and see what you can create. That's what I'm going to do for just a few minutes. Don't do any gluing yet because you might change your mind. So make sure you know what you want before you start to glue. Overlapping is certainly just fine, as you can see. I am going to do, I've got a funny group of shapes this time. So I am going to create just a design. I've done animals, I've done cityscapes. Today, I think I'm just going to do a design and see what happens. Now, I hope that you try this again because each time you do this, these come out differently. So you have created a shape, you have colored it in, you have cut it out, and now you're using that shape to collage, which means to take other items or other pieces of artwork and create something new out of them. All right, I think I'm ready to glue. So in order to remember, let's squeak that little guy up there. I'm gonna just take one piece at a time. Put a little glue here. I've already decided to make a little bit of a change here. I'm gonna move this over here and put this up here. And yes, I'm overlapping, and that's totally fine. If you decide that you need a bigger piece of paper for your background, that works too. You can go find a bigger piece of paper. This art project has endless possibilities. You saw I just made another change. That's totally okay. Okay, I am finished. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I wish I could see what you created. And next time, we'll do some more work with the elements of art.